where'd you start your career in cooking?
Yeah, so a Chinese takeaway, J&M's fast food.
How did you come up with this idea to start, you create a concept and take over a restaurant and pop up in there?
I'd been at Attica for like 4 years. It's like a hyper-focused restaurant, like native Australian ingredients. And by this point, I was very confident in myself, but I didn't have the outlet to cook some of the ideas that I was having.
What's one piece of advice you'd give to someone who's struggling to put together those touch points in their business?
For me, I put myself as
In today's episode, we talk with Peter Gunn, the creative force behind Ides in Melbourne, which has redefined contemporary Australian dining. Starting with pop-ups, Peter turned his vision into a thriving restaurant, blending innovation with classical techniques. Despite pandemic challenges, Peter's determined to reignite the model he perfected. Peter shares his inspiring journey, his modern approach to hospitality, and what it takes to run a successful venue. Stay tuned to hear his story and thoughts on the evolving industry.
Welcome back. The line chops, did you swap them out?
Yeah, we swap them out.
What happened? They delivered it wrong?
Wrong cut.
Wrong cut. You never order line chops here. Only for the barbecue at home.
Only for the barbecue.
Yeah.
Actually, man, I'm off lamb at home.
Really?
I'm scarred from my youth.
What happened? Just too much lamb.
Parents overcooked fucking lamb. Overcooked lamb chops.
So lamb chops meaning you're from NZ?
I'm from NZ.
Yeah. Whereabouts?
Wellington, New Zealand.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you were telling me earlier, where'd you start your career in cooking?
Yeah, so a Chinese takeaway, J&M's fast food, served fried chicken and Chinese takeaway. Three choices into a takeaway box.
3 choices in one
box.
$10 a meal.
About that. Fried rice, sweet and sour pork, your lemon chickens. Yeah.
What's the secret to a good fried rice?
Hot wok, I think. Hot wok.
Is it true about the old rice?
You want the rice I like the rice to be dry, so not necessarily old, but I think cooked and cooled. So if it's steamed, it comes out of the steamer and it's cooled. Yeah, that's my hot take on fried rice. But yeah, I used to make fried rice for the for the staff. Wasn't a staff meal per se as we do now in the restaurants that I've worked in, but we cook for myself a little individual portion of fried rice. Yeah,
and that's how you used to do it out.
Hot wok, oil, like the half a litre of oil, some onion, frozen veg. So you get your peas, carrots, and
frozen veg though. Sometimes it retains a lot of the nutrients, right?
Yeah, and it's go. Then eggs in, so the egg mixture in there. Whip that around, rice in, toss.
Any yum?
Yep. MSG, salt, sugar, splash of soy. Done.
Pork, prawn?
No, vegetarian.
Vegetarian all the way?
Well, see, I mean, there's limits to what you could cook.
For a lunch meal.
For a lunch meal. But I think, it's funny because that was, one of the first things I would cook in the first job I worked at. And then years later, one of the most significant jobs that I had was the sous chef at Attica with Ben Shuri. And one year we went to Copenhagen, and if you dig deep somewhere, there's this crazy video of what we call a bike fried rice, where I'm riding this pushy.
Right.
I've got this D Rose singlet on the back of it. We've stapled all these cryovac bags to the back.
Okay.
And it's got the ingredients of fried rice. Okay. and we've got this little burner at the back between Ben and myself, and Ben's got the wok and he's cooking.
While you're riding the bike, full circle moment.
Yeah, and then we've got there's takeaway boxes, and we're riding around, and he's handing it off.
Handing out fried rice.
It was crazy. Yeah, that was
in Copenhagen.
In Copenhagen, yeah, we went there I was Ben's assistant at one of the many talks that he did around the world.
Yeah.
In about 2015.
And where was Attica?
Where?
Yeah.
Ripon Lee, Melbourne, the restaurant. I think that's what you mean, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And did you when you moved from Wellington, where did you go straight away?
Restaurant called Ezard in the CBD.
Okay.
It's no longer there now. Teague Ezard was the chef owner of that. I think he had that for about 20 years, and then he started Ginger Boy. But I was fortunate enough to, when I planned to move to Australia and start looking for work, Teague's, or HR department was quite actively searching for chefs, and I was able to line up work with the signed contract before I landed in Melbourne. So I was in Melbourne for a week and then started working. Yeah.
So while you were in NZ, did you work anywhere else besides the famous J&M takeaway?
Yeah, the J&M takeaway was actually the sort of the gateway, to working in restaurants and cooking.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't do too well at school. Sort of wasn't really for me, in so many words, and I needed money, so I started working at the takeaway. And then it's not that I really that did not make me love food. By this point I was like 16 years old. I fucking ate all my life,
Yeah.
It didn't gorge, it didn't have anything great or special, but there was
food was
around. My family were like put on the spreads. I've got some Māori heritage, and there was like hangis and boil ups and food all the time whenever there was gatherings. But I don't think I really appreciated it, and even in that my first job, I didn't really appreciate it. It was just getting by. But then things started to click where I needed to sort of work. I needed to apply myself somewhere, and then across from where the takeaway was, so in Courtney Place in Wellington, there was takeaways on one side. So there's J&M's fast food, another great Chinese takeaway, which is a KC Cafe, and some other, you can think kebab shops and whatnot. And then on the other side was all the shiny restaurants,
right?
So
you didn't have to go too far.
Didn't have to go too far, man. And I did it. I ended up one thing led to another.
And the references would have been easy. Is he good?
Is he good? Yeah, he's good. We spoke across the road. Yeah. But I did go to end up working out that I have to go to cooking school and in order to, if I wanted to show that I wanted to take things serious, which is interesting. Looking back on that now, I've never had to display my qualifications of what I learned through going to culinary school ever. Which is disappointing, because when you don't do too well at school and you've got no certificates or anything to show for, you finally get one and no one wants to see it. You're like, what?
I think mainly it was it's probably like, oh, this guy actually wants to, I find something with education as a form of self-discipline to yourself.
Yeah.
Every time that I've studied, I've done my bachelor's, I've done my accreditation as a food service consultant, and then I'm doing my MBA right now. And what I find is when I'm studying, it's always about, me putting myself first and saying, okay, I'm disciplined enough to go through this course. So I think from an employer's perspective, they're like, if this kid's 16 and he's pulling in, he's like, well, are you going to TAFE? Because if you're not going to TAFE, I'll give someone else who's taking the opportunity to go to TAFE. And then if you do that, then it's like you're showing a sense of commitment to them. Maybe that's how they would have seen it.
Yeah. Look, I hope.
But
so.
it is frustrating when no one wants to see a degree.
Yeah.
I finished a double degree and everyone's like, "Oh, who cares?" Yeah. What is it? Yeah.
Yeah. I ended up going through all those steps and then working at my first job, which wasn't at the place across the road. But my ambition was to get to this restaurant. It was called Hummingbird. It was small plates, all this stuff that I never I hadn't even been into a proper restaurant by 16, 17. I remember going there with a group of people that I work with in the just after the takeaway. Went there, and then when the bill came, I didn't even know how to decide pay a restaurant bill or how it works out. It was crazy. But then I did eventually end up working. My big step up was to go from the Chinese takeaway to the small Tuppers restaurant across the road.
Across the road. That's a big step.
It was a big step.
And then how many years did you do your apprenticeship all in NZ?
Yeah, I did not do an apprenticeship. went through a course, City and Guilds, which was 12 months, half of that practical and half of that theory.
Wow.
Yeah, and then that was it.
Sounds like a fast track.
It was fast. Well, you know, it was tough.
Yeah.
Like it was full time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So instead of doing it over the 3 years
Yep.
or 4 years, you would literally do it in the 12 months.
Yeah, look, it was kind of like you go that it's like you treat
It's
it
all
like going to
hands-on.
school. It's like 9 to 5,
Oh,
5
wow.
days a week.
Oh.
Start your morning in the classroom, go into the kitchen.
Yeah.
Once a week we held a friends and family like restaurant. So there was students studying wine, front of house service. There was the management guys that all sort of come together to make a restaurant.
And did you find working in that sort of, you know, there's not many schools that do that now. I don't find like the 9 to 5 plus.
No. I mean,
Did you find that assist you? Like, did it set you a bit of structure?
oh yeah, 100%. Through that, like I was then able to, I guess I tie it into what happens current day, but I was then able to work out what days I could work because I knew what days school were, like 9 to 5, and then there was it was 9 to 5, and let's just say on a Thursday it was something like 12 till 9.
Right.
Meaning I couldn't work Thursday nights,
Night.
but then I knew I had weekends free.
And the nights free
and the
during the
nights
week.
free, and this is where I started kitchen hand, working as a kitchen hand. Whereas like we've had, I've had apprentices here that have to go to TAFE once a week, or then it becomes once every other week, and then the classing schedule changes, and that, for my business, the experience that I've had we don't have any apprentices with us now, but when they want to be working rather than go to TAFE.
Yeah.
So then we have, we work out that the assessor
Comes
to us rather than them going to the TAFE and getting signed off their apprenticeship that way.
Would you? What's one piece of advice you'd give to like a modern day apprentice, like an apprentice in this era?
Stick to it. The last 2 apprentices I had, they've given up. And it's not because of, it's only because of the fact is that they thought they wanted to do it. You know, the last apprentice we had was a 30-odd guy looking at a change of career, and he was working at some hedge fund. I didn't know too much about his history or that business, but he came, he dined, and he's always had a passion for food. And then whether, for whatever decision that he made or choices that he decided he wanted to live out that passion. So he went and applied for an apprenticeship, and he started somewhere else. He didn't start with us. Then he came to us, and he was with us months before. It's like, oh yeah, it's all too hard. I'm not getting paid enough. I'm not doing this and not doing like. So I can't stress the point enough that you commit to an apprenticeship, stick with it. You know, stick with it. I guess even if you don't,
It's a sacrifice, right?
it is a sacrifice, but it's this. And I guess the other piece of advice is do your research properly. Look at what it is going to entail. Like, don't just go in blindly and be like, oh yeah, I can do this, and then realize, oh, actually I can't do it. Like, all the information's laid out there for.
You know your pay rates, you know what you can do, you know how many hours you can work. Like, our government pretty much spits everything out for you in Australia on what an apprenticeship looks like.
Yep.
And that's really critical that you said stick to it. And I think that goes for anything is you know, if you feel like something's too hard, if you run away from it now, you're never going to ever face the music later down the path, right?
I think for the last 2 that I've had, that I know for a fact did not finish their apprenticeships. Both of them never started with us. We were like second year, sort of. They were in their second. Oh, one was in their first year, but he started somewhere else. He's an older guy. I understand that's a bit like, oh well, this is not working for me. I'm not going to continue this path, which I also stand by that as well. But for the younger guy, like, is a few years of commitment for something that he at one point he really did want to do, and I think it's a little bit different to just being like you're a skilled individual. You go and work in a joint and you work out that it's not the right place for you to be. So you move on quickly. I would encourage that. Well, you don't necessarily have to commit to something that you can see that doesn't work for you. But when you've got...
But it is a common thing that people do drop out in their apprenticeship very early on. Do you think it's a lack of maturity, or do you think it's a lack of understanding?
Well, I think it's a lack of understanding, because what I wanted to say then was that you get so much support. You're getting support from the TAFE, you're getting support from the government, you're getting support from your employer, you're getting 9 times out of 10, you're getting support from your family, because they all know the graft that's required. And I'm talking about someone that's young, you know, like maybe late teens, not someone...
Yeah, in his mature age, like getting towards the 30s plus.
So that, you know, doing the research, understanding what's ahead of you, and really taking that step.
I sort of like how you transitioned into culinary, was that you took on a part-time job sort of after school, after like your normal public school, government school, whatever it is, and then you were working at this Chinese takeaway, just cooking.
Yep.
You were actually just cooking.
Yep.
It wasn't like you were trying to chase this fine dining dream or whatever it was. You didn't even know what fine diners were.
No.
You know, you sort of navigated yourself in that. So from you working through that 12 months and doing that hard slog, working at some great restaurants in NZ, then you moved over to Melbourne, worked for Ezard. How long were you there for?
12 months.
And then you moved on again?
I moved to the Western Districts out to Dunkeld and worked with Dan Hunter at the Royal Mail Hotel. And
between, you know, how many places did you work before you started your own journey?
3.
3 places there? And 3 places...
Are we talking...
Overall?
Overall, 6.
And how important was moving around for you?
Yep.
You were utilising your time as efficiently as possible, and you knew you had like a personal agenda when you walked in here. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm trying to achieve.
Yep.
And then you got to that certain, from this is what I'm understanding, you got to that certain point and was like, you're trying to push the boundaries a bit more. There's nothing really more here. Okay, what more do I need to go on for?
Yep.
And then did a bit of research, maybe not so much that you thought you should have, and then you went on and took on that next role.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like, the best restaurant in my eyes that I ever seen was the one directly across the road from the takeaway. You know?
Yeah.
And so the goal, the ambition was to work there. And so eventually got there. And then through there was there was a restaurant, Martin Bosley's Yacht Club restaurant, which was on the wharf there down at in Wellington. It was not far, and we used to get all the glossy magazines and come through, and I learnt about that through there. I was like, fuck, this is amazing. And this when there was all these swipes and shit on the plate. It was like really like fine dining. I was like, fuck, that's where I want to go. And then I got there next, and then that was turbulent times at that restaurant. I think it was like they'd been in for years and go through like I saw that the fine dining was tough. You know, there was days in that restaurant when I was 17, 18, where there was no customers for lunch. And so, you know, it's like, fuck, this is tough. There's a risk involved in this. And I think like learning that sort of stuff is like, I like this part of the restaurant.
Challenge.
This challenge is like you've got something that not everybody
can offer,
or not everybody can offer, not everybody can afford, and 2, not everybody wants, you know, not people.
It's like hyper niche.
Yeah.
And then you were like, from what I understand from the culinary world here in Australia, you were a pivotal person in Melbourne that really started up the pop-up culture.
Yeah.
That's from my understanding.
Yep.
And how did you come up with this idea to start, you know, you create a concept and take over a restaurant and pop up in there?
I think it had started to happen around the world. I started to notice, like there was a few in LA and London, like that you start to see a collective of chefs coming together to.
But like when social media wasn't around that
No,
often, how'd you find that out?
I think it was on the cusp of social media starting, which is why they were like so
Like present. It was
present.
like
Yeah, we're getting started. Fuck, I didn't know how to use it. Like, but I mean, I sure
You've seen
how
it.
to, like some people did. But yeah, I guess the idea was to. So by this point, I'd been at Attica for like 4 years, and Attica again is like a hyper-focused restaurant, like native Australian ingredients. There's inspiration from here and there, but it always reflects back to the history of Australia and native Australian cooking. And by this point, I was very confident in myself, but I didn't have the outlet to cook some of the ideas that I was having. And with what I was contributing to Attica, my role at that time, that I just had heaps of ideas, and so and none of them, not all of them could go somewhere. So with a buddy of mine, yeah, we talked about just doing this pop-up, and we took over this cafe, and it was a cafe, it was a bar, it was a you name it.
Was it all in one?
It was all in one. So it was this hodgepodge of a restaurant that I was sitting there with my wife, and I thought, fuck, maybe I should just ask these guys if we can take over this place on a Mondays, which we did. Yeah, so Lindsay Fush, one of my best mates, he'll drive down from Hamilton to country Victoria, where we met working at the Royal Mail, and I was obviously at Attica. We're sort of this is peak stagiaire point where everyone was like staging in restaurants, which tends not to happen that much anymore here in Australia anyway. So Fush would drive down with stagiaires from the Royal Mail,
right,
and I'd bring the stagiaires from Attica, and then we'd just have
a whole crew
in the thing, and Fush and I would
stagiaires mean they're not getting paid.
No, they're doing work experience.
Okay.
Yeah. And then so these guys are always just looking for something to do anyway as well, and so we'd just get together, and Fush and I would write a menu, and then we'd just piece it together, like it would all come together on the day, and then one thing just sort of led to another.
And how many of these pop-ups did you end up doing?
So we did them once a month from 2012 till we opened here 2016. So 4 years, once a month. Yep, it was hectic.
And you just kept on going around different places?
No, we. So I guess partly what I touched on before is I committed to the place. Like I negotiated with the bar that we took over at the time. It was like, I want to do this once a month for X amount of time.
Right.
We ended up sort of outgrowing that, but we did 12 months at
that one place.
First place, yeah.
Wow.
And each month there was like, which shared the coin that we made with the guys, everybody involved, and then we just invested back into the business, which I've fucking still been doing to this day. That sort of pay the staff, reinvest into the business, you know. But yeah, once a month, man, we did that there, and then we outgrew the demand. Like there was about a 30-seater, so the demand became higher, and then we went to a place in East Melbourne. And then they had just started their business as well, and we were able to grow with their starting business, meaning they were like a 35-seater, and then after a couple of years they were like a 65-seater, and we were able to grow the demand that we had with them. So yeah, it was really good. It was really good.
And that's you like adding value to that business. They're adding value to you.
Yeah.
If there's a chef on the peripherals that's watching this right now, what's one piece of advice you'd give them to start a pop-up just like you did?
Yeah, it's probably just do it and commit and work out, like, I mean, with the help of yourself, like the spreadsheets and the information that's available. You need that sort of stuff because there's lots of hidden costs in everything. And when you're negotiating with someone, as simple as it may be, you could offer someone like $100 to take over their place for for a night, it's always worthwhile to understand, to take some estimations in what a day's rent might look like, what the electricity costs. Do they use gas? How much is that working with? How much of their cleaning chemicals are you going to use of theirs? Because what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to fucking show up with rubbish bags and bins and like do all this stuff. I wanted to utilize what was not being utilized in the closed business that day. Yeah, and so I put together what I thought was a reasonable
cost sheet.
And
how did you come up with that? Was that over the years of experience of you working in kitchens?
Yeah, all the things you need. You know, you need running water, you need gas, you need to dispose of waste and so on and so forth. And then think of something that they can benefit from. I.e., we started we had a great som that was part of our initial crew, but we made sure that we would use their booze and that they would take the profit from the booze. So we're selling their product for them to encourage
the consumer.
Yeah,
or to encourage the business
to allow us to do it. So you know, you got to
give and take.
Give and take. So that my advice is don't just think you're a fucking sick cunt and you get it for nothing. You know, be respectful.
Yeah,
and,
you know Morgan, the one that started Bell's Chicken.
Yep.
He had his deals with all his pop-ups was because he did things internationally, not just nationally.
Yep.
He'd fly to Copenhagen, he'd fly to Germany, he'd fly to France, the US, and this guy's doing pop-ups everywhere, worldwide. And guys are like, man, this guy must be banking it, rolling in it, getting paid to be flying everywhere. But his pop-ups weren't for that. He just needed his crew to be funded and the food to be taken. The venue makes all the money.
Yep.
Food and bev. Just cover my cost. Doesn't want to make a cent. Did not make a cent. And he says it with hand on heart. And that's why he was so well respected by like an international community, because he wasn't just trying to, you know, blood suck everybody.
Yeah.
These pop-ups sort of added value to his brand. And I find that, you know, market stalls or pop-ups in restaurants, I always tell someone like that has a new product that they want to start with, just say it's like a retail product. I'll be like, guys, you can have this really, really big idea and you might think it's the best thing in the world and your inner circle might think it's the greatest product of all time. But how do you know it's actually going to sell? So I would start in a market stall, try it there, and if the market responds, then it responds. Pepe Saya, they started in a small market.
Yep.
And now they're in airlines.
Yep.
Just from like, again, a pop-up. And, you know, transitioning from that 2012 to 2016, how did you know that, you know, that's it, I need to open a restaurant? What was it?
To the wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were expecting our first child, and I was working so much. There's the full-time hours at Attica, and then all the
Pop-ups.
extracurricular work that went into the pop-ups and the events that then came off the back of the pop-ups and teaching myself, because I mean, still probably to this day, I'm a chef, not I am a business owner, but my trade was cooking.
Yeah.
So I've had to, right up until having my now business partners, a lot of my learnings were all self-taught, like all the research that I had to do to study. Do I have to pay GST? Like, you know, all of that stuff took a lot. It took a lot. So yeah, I was, you know, there's times that I'm working like 100, 120 hour weeks, and it's just like, you got to make a choice. Either commit to the restaurant, or commit to the pop-up, or commit to turning the pop-up into something, or get rid of it and just commit to Attica.
So you're comfortable to say that your wife was part of that puzzle of making the choice to open that first venue?
Yeah.
With that support?
Yeah, or is to go out and get it, to go out and make it happen. Because, like, as you touched on, like, it was low risk. The pop-up was low risk. Like, we were heavily invested, but not so invested that
Financially.
yeah,
Yeah.
that we weren't, like, if we stopped doing it, it'd just be like
Everything back to normal.
everything back to normal. And during the time we were doing it, people were popping up and then disappearing, and you know, they were, like we had simple branding, we had nothing. We just relied on the quality of the service that we were doing and that word of mouth vibe, which was working for us. And I saw it all come, and you see the flashy logos and you see the great photos and you see this, and they're there for 1 minute, and then they're probably overcapitalized and then also overcommitted. Like, you see, oh fuck, it takes a lot to drum something up once a month. And so yeah, but the constant graphing of that was just like something you had to give.
And this was the first location, the one that we're sitting in right now?
This is it, yeah.
Yeah.
No, this is
This is next door.
This is next door. So this is actually the second location.
Yeah.
The first location is next door, but we expanded 2 years ago, into here. So opened there 2016.
And that's March.
Both Ides restaurant, Ides bar. This is the private dining room. Yeah, it's we started the bar March with the idea that we would offer a more casual offering.
Yep.
And sort of have a different outlet for that. Worked for the first few months, and then the consumer just wanted Ides. Yeah. So we you know,
you listen to the data.
Listen to it, and then we just sort of. It wasn't a hard transition, man. It was just a matter of peeling off the sticker, like the decal, and then it's like there's no changes to it.
And the word Ides, where'd that come from?
So it was right back to the pop-ups. Ides in Latin means a day falling roughly in the middle of each month. So which is why we had to live up to the Ides, like the once a month pop-up.
Wow.
And the most significant Ides is the Ides of March, when like the common people rose up to assassinate Caesar. Which is where the name March came from for the bar. And March, a lot of what I do is it's all.
You like to have a story.
Yeah, but it's all natural evolution as well. Like, you know, we put this private dining room in, and we didn't have a name for a while. We call this now the courier room, which is like a meeting place for the people, and also the place where, like, Caesar was assassinated. You know, like he was. So, you know, it all sort of naturally organically ties into one another. If I was to sit down, if I was to go back to, you know, even when Novella said it's Attica or Ides, I never would have be able to plot this out on paper. Like, no chance. No chance. It's just sort of one thing has led into another,
natural progression,
into another. And so March sort of got us through COVID. So we were working on the idea of putting the March bar in, and then the branding of March, the A in the letter, were legs, so it was like March to the bar. And then it just so happened during COVID we started serving food to people, like preparing dishes to finish at home, and we pushed that out under the brand March. It seemed like quite fitting for a takeaway, so to speak. So yeah, and again, but that was all just like, it wasn't planned, but it landed right in our lap, and it was you know, we had to use it.
It just happened. If there was something that you could tell the young Peter Gunn before he moved to Australia, right now, what's one thing you'd tell him?
I think be patient, slow it down a touch. I think I turned 39 next week, so I think I was 26 when I landed here. I was scared. Like, I only moved from New Zealand, but I was still scared. Like, had like a couple of $100 in my pocket and a bag, and I just black bag full of clothes and a couple of books, and just had to go, you know. And I sort of went through a lot of all the stereotypical chef stuff, like drinking after work and partying, and then like showing up the next day and just go, and just like not taking care of myself, and becoming quite like aggressive in what I wanted to achieve or wanted to do, and so go back to say, okay, I want to go there, I want to work there, this is what I want to do. It's like, fuck, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. Like, so much so, even after Ezad and working at the Royal Mail, I applied at Attica and I didn't get the job. And that cut, and I went back again, you know, to
prove yourself.
To prove myself, yeah, man. I was at the Royal Mail, and I even it was going from Melbourne City out to country Victoria was like, whoa, massive change of pace and everything. I think that's really when I started to find myself. You know, that's where I met one of my best mates. That's where I met Novella, my wife, ex-wife, by the way, I should say. So been through all of it. Yeah, that's when I really started to slow down and take stock on things. But that was, you know, after 18 months of landing here and being here. So yeah, my advice to myself would be just to slow down a touch.
Just slow down.
Slow down a touch and think things through a little bit more.
And if there was, you know, you've got business partners now and currently, how important is having, you know, that business partner involved in your business?
Yeah, for me, very important. So I've got 2 partners. With the help of them, I never would have been able to start. They were able to really help me negotiate and navigate getting into the lease, understanding what, you know, liquor licensing and all the relationships they had already with lawyers and just HR departments and event planners and so forth was, yeah, it was invaluable. It's like I said, going back, it's like always searching for that mentor, without having them to lean on and to learn from. Yeah, I don't think we possibly wouldn't be sitting here. So they're very important, very, very important. There's not a, you know, I'd probably speak to one of our partners is he's not too heavily involved, only when there's important decisions to be made. The other one I speak to every other day about the various
operations,
bits and pieces, and just because he's involved, they're both involved in other hospitality venues as well. It's always nice to, you know, you can be quite self-absorbed in your own business and what's happening in
just
there.
Closed between 4 walls. You feel like you don't know what the hell's going on outside.
Yeah,
you don't know that, you know, that what the pain that you're going through, someone else is going through.
That's right.
That's the entire point of this podcast. Is you're lucky you have 2 individuals that are exposed to other places and other businesses, so you can bounce ideas off them.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people out there right now who own an operator, have no one they can talk to, potentially gone through the full cycle like you have, but have no one else to lean on, and they don't know any better and they don't know what to do, and they're the reason sometimes their businesses lead to failing. They can't bounce off their staff.
Yeah.
So, you know, if someone like that ever came on your peripheral, someone who's, you know, running a business, they're by themselves, they're in their own mind, what's one way, you know, they could sort of escape that?
Personally for me, it's always to ensure that you've got a friendship group, 1 or 2 that are in similar situations to lean on. And it's sometimes you got to swallow a lot of pride to let people know that you're struggling with this, or this is not going as well as you expected. I've been in, there are times I've been in absolute lows when I know there's topics that I can't discuss with the staff, the staff immediately present in situations where I'm been feeling tough, but I have been fortunate enough to maintain the relationships with chefs that I grew up, started working with in Melbourne that are owner operators. So I would encourage them to seek out friends, or they don't have to be friends, people you admire that are in similar situations, so that you and build up some confidence to be able to talk through that with them. Because it's hard, you know, your partner at home is not really, if they're not involved in the business, they're not really familiar, and you think you can go back and let it out on, share with them, and which is great to offload, unload, but you're
not fixing anything.
You're not fixing anything, because a lot of the time you're not getting the right information back. Like I know with my mum, bless her, she's great. Like I speak to her about problems, it's going
just
to be
nurture
okay.
you.
Yeah, just nurture. And
Yeah.
it's like, that's great. Sometimes you need that, but there's not the
Sometimes you need that half truth.
and that because I'm always scared. Like I've always been scared to lose my creativity or lose that sort of the hard angle that makes Ides what it is that we've built it to be, you know. And you can think there's times where we've had a month of high food costs, but we've got some sick dishes on there, and you're like, well, we've got to adapt this, but we're not just going to turn a dish that we've sort of refined to be a uniquely Ides dish and just make it look like or serve it or cook it or change the produce just so it fits within
That perfect box.
Which then takes away
what Ides is.
what Ides is. So, you know, we've then got to look to other angles, meaning we look at something earlier in the menu and we adapt something, like we can see, maybe something's on the way out, like seasonal wise, or we've been cooking it for long enough. We make sure that when we're bringing something else in to replace that it's becoming a support barrier for what we've got being the main event is what I hope that's making sense.
No, definitely understand.
Uh,
And I know that you have this ethos that I want to tap on. And I remember, if I quote you, tell me if I'm wrong, but your most important dishes is something that you start on and something that you finish on.
Yep.
So for you, the pastry section is very, very, very important.
Yep.
Can you explain a little bit, you know, why that ethos for you is so strong? Because it's something that people tend to neglect.
Personally, I think it's people's attention span, you know, current day. It's you know, if we serve like six courses, a lot of the times those middle courses, people just don't remember them. Like just simply like if you think back to, oh yeah, we had this and this, but when you start off with a bang and you finish with a bang, I think the takeaways, the starting and the takeaways, they for whatever, maybe it's just my memory, but they seem to stand out more. You seem to be able to recall them better if you finish on an amazing dessert. You know, if you start on something, really special. But in saying that, we make sure that we carry that energy throughout the entire menu. Yeah. So we don't offer it like your traditional extensive 12-course menus. Like we've got a menu called The 12, but it's 12 dishes served only over 5 courses at the moment. You know, and that's meaning you'll sit down and you'll get a couple of plates with a side, and the Melbourne style of eating is very share-like, very very handsy, and we sort of lean into a bit of that. But instead of this plates being shared, you get your individual portion of everything, and again that keeps you engaged, keeps you thinking. All our main courses forever have always been a plated piece of protein and sauce on the plate with a number of condiments like served. Like we haven't been the first people to do that, of course, but it's just in this realm of fine dining where you're like, you've got your fish and your sauce, and then you've got your meat and your sauce, and then it can become quite monotonous and quite repetitive, and that is where I think people sort of turn off a little bit and forget
what they ate during the middle. And you know, Ides is a fine diner, and I find that, you know, what people perceive as fine dining globally has very mixed perception. Sorry. Like, you perceive fine dining as, you know, a massive plate with like a really, really small pea in the middle.
Yep.
Right? If you talk to the layperson of fine dining, they're like, oh, I'm paying a lot of money for bugger all food, right? Where fine dining in the world is, how can I bring nature to the plate, or whatever my vision is forward, right? Now, I find that in Australia, especially compared to other places of the world, you have, we have this element of, I'd say like more of a casual approach to fine dining.
Yep.
And like even our dress code is quite different. And even the level of service is still there, but it does come across that little bit more casual. Then it's not as overwhelming. And you've traveled the world. You've been to Copenhagen. You've been to other places of the world. What's your take on Australia's fine dining scene?
Yeah, I only really want to speak specifically to what we offer here, and it's just really informal. So we take away I like to think the stiffness of it. So how that sort of relates is the linen, the white tablecloth sort of thing that everybody perceives as fine dining. Still, maybe, I don't know. I feel like that should have changed by now. But rather than the linen tablecloths, we've been heavily invested in a beautiful table, like the one we're sitting at here now, like solid brass, walnut. These have beautiful touch points. They're unique, not in the world, but they're unique to other venues. So that, in a sense, just drops the formality immediately. If you come to like this, you can see like, in just, I don't know if the camera can see it,
imperfections.
But it's a story that's been here.
Yeah.
Someone had that could have been a shot of tequila. That could have been a glass of red wine,
Yeah.
This could have been a Mai Tai.
Yeah.
Like, there's just a story that's sort of built up on the table that sort of contributes to the energy of the room, that the place has got soul, which, again, going back to the white linen tablecloths after every service, like, don't get me wrong, this gets wiped down. This is just a natural patina. This is what happens to this product, this is what happens to brass. But at the end of every night, if this was covered by a white tablecloth, strip down, put another fresh one on, and some people really do like that. But with that, like, and I guess the engagement with the staff at the table would be like, say if I was to be served here, maybe the waiter or the waitress, they remember what happened here.
Yeah.
The map's sort of laid out on the table, and so like it just brings a sense of like, just a little bit of charm,
a bit of nostalgia, a bit of theatre,
and that's really what we focus on, is the really informal nature of delivering something special.
You said a word that I love, and it's something that I want to just focus on a little bit. And you said touch points. A lot of people tend to miss out on consumer touch points and how important that is in the experience journey. Because when they come into a venue, it is a journey, and it's a journey through experience. And when people go out to eat, they're either escaping their norms of reality, or they're celebrating something. That's what I believe. If I want to go out to eat, I want to go out because I want to escape my norm. I want to get out of my house. I want to leave the environment that I'm in. I want to go get transformed into someone else's space. I want to experience something different. Or if I'm celebrating something, I want to really enjoy. I want to indulge. I want to have that level of experience. Sure. And then there's food for convenience. I can't be fucked cooking today, whatever the case may be. But along that journey, when you enter a space, there's different touch points that go along the way. And I can see here, just by the way that you're communicating, you have a deep understanding of these touch points, and you have, your venue is very well thought out, even to the way of your sequence of service. You showcase those touch points through and through. What's one piece of advice you'd give to someone who's struggling to put together those touch points in their business?
For me, I put myself as the diner. So I always promote the idea that you've got to be comfortable in your own business. You've got to, I'm creating these touch points. I'm creating the experience for the experience that I want. This is how I can refine it. This is how I can shape it. This is how I can take it in all these directions. Meaning, I don't want to be greeted with the hello, sir. What's your name? What's your phone number? What's your address? Why are you here? It's just the two of you. Would you like this, that, and the other? I like my welcoming into a venue to be relaxed. I like the edge to be taken off. You're coming off, like where we are on Smith Street, you come off this quite eclectic street into this like slow but energetic environment. And with that, like if I'm to maintain that, you can't have a really stiff welcoming, you know. So the way that I look at these, and the way that I really like to encourage my staff to look at the touch points, and what I would encourage other people to do, is believe in it in the way that you want it, or shape it the way that you want it to feel, not what other people's expectation of what it should be. Like if you believe that your restaurant should have a fucking giant screen that welcomes you, and when you walk in the door and the waiter has to look down for this amount of time before you welcome, and then click 4 times. If you believe that, do that. I don't believe in that. I think that's completely, I don't know what the word
it's
is.
a little bit disconnecting.
It's very disconnecting, you know, whereas the way it starts here is you're coming off the street and you're welcome to sit at the bar. You know, you're encouraged to sit at the bar, but basically you got to sit at the fucking bar.
Yeah.
But like it's informal.
It's
its
a
nature.
segue.
It's like, come here, sit here, and
You never even greet their name. You say, just come in, take a seat.
Yeah, have a seat here. Once they're seated, we serve them a welcome
Beverage.
non-alcoholic tea on us as a way to get them. You know, you think of a tea. You go to a fucking day spa. You get given a tea to relax. You know, so we get them settled in. Once they're settled, Paulie, once you're there, then we come say, what was the name of your reservation? You know. And then we've got a a beautiful leather bound reservations book that we can see the name.
Yes.
Thanks. Give them the wine list. Let them ease into it.
Because you know, that's exactly what happened to me when I went to Ivan's restaurant in Singapore.
Yep.
I was going to a hawker market on New Year's Eve day, walking around in my shorts and t-shirt, and his restaurant's called Nori.
Yeah, I've been. It's great. Yeah.
I walked in, so if you remember it, there's a lounge at the front.
Yep.
I walked in, this beautiful lady greeted me, and my wife, and I thought, I didn't even know what Nori was. It slipped. I knew about it, but I'm walking, so it just slipped my mind. And I had a quick look, and it had like this long table. I read Nori. For some reason, I put the words in the wrong way. I thought it was Japanese. So I thought maybe it's like a little sashimi bar. I might be able to get a bit of sushi. It might be like a nice little omakase experience. I said, great, we'll go in, you know. And it was really casual, like really warm and casual. And Jess goes, no, Paul, I think this is like really fine dining. And I said, no, it looks comfortable. I walk in, the lady greets me with a tea.
Yep.
And it was like this beautiful like green tea. And I was like, so I had this tea and I was relaxed. I said, mate, I'm not going anywhere. Whatever it is, we're committed.
Yep.
Didn't even ask my name. She just gave me a tea. And I feel like he won me over at that point.
Yep.
And I feel like that same way with what you're doing here is that. And this is a piece of advice I'd give to anyone that wants to add that element within their venue. No matter if it's casual or it's you know, super refined. It's reduce that barrier of entry.
Yep.
Especially in this market, everyone is over being sold to. I don't want to feel ripped off.
Yep.
I want to feel like, you know, I'm supporting the business the right way. I want to feel like they have the best intention at heart, like anything in life. Who you support, what you want to achieve. And I feel like if you can make them immersed into your world and comfortable in, and make them feel comfortable in a foreign space, the rest is history. They're going to enjoy everything.
And sometimes that's the hardest thing to do. It's just to get people just to relax. And we put we put a lot of time into working out how we can get them relaxed. You know, like a lot of time. We're doing everything like, come straight to the table, get watered and suited and booted as soon as they get in, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't work for us and our
your style of dining.
Style, yeah.
On the end of this podcast, Pete, if there was something that you could, pass on to, your team or someone that you've worked with, or whoever the case may be, just like a lasting note for culinary, for culinary business, because you said it before, you're a chef. You're not you're a business owner, but you're a chef. But you're always fearful of losing that creativity. And there are a lot of people in that same position, and this is what I'm trying to get to, is guys that are going out on their way, that are trying to learn the business side of things, that are trying to learn the numbers, because I have a thing that numbers don't lie. That's my biggest thing. And everyone can talk shit to you, tell you that this is the best dish, that's everything. No, but, if you count how many times that this plate's come back to the kitchen not eaten, that's a number. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Numbers don't lie.
Yep.
If there's one piece of advice you would give to, someone wanting to get out, kickstart their journey, open their own business, guns blazing, or a staff member that wants to, that worked for you, that wants to do that, what's something that you would tell them?
Know how much things cost. Know how much you're worth. Know how much the staff needs to be paid, what they're entitled to. Know what rent is. Know what power costs. Know what gas costs. Know what fucking tea light candles cost. Know what toilet paper costs. All of these things stack up, and to your point, the numbers do not lie. They can get away. It can get away from you so quickly. Know what the flowers cost. We pay $1,000 a month in flowers, and that's got to be calculated into the cost somewhere. It's got to be paid for. You don't just want to be like, oh yeah, my food costs fucking 20%. I'm doing fucking great guns, but then you just hit with expenses left, right, and center. It's everything, like the costing of the jus. Know what the jus costs. Know what the spoonful of jus that goes on a plate costs. It takes a while to learn that stuff, but with again, with the help of yourself and the programs that are available and the information that is out there, this stuff is it's invaluable. Know what branding costs. Know what the graphic designer is actually doing when they just throw you a 5K quote. What does that involve? Is there a business card in that? If the business card is in that, do you get handed printed cards, or is it just the design? Know what things cost is the
I can
one
feel some
thing
pain.
that it's not pain. It's just it's painful to see what things cost. It's painful to learn how people charge things, and what hidden costs are always slid in there. Whether it's a fuel levy, whether it's a fucking box charge, if it's, it goes right down to understanding what a minimum order costs, so you're not paying $15 for freight. It's just
Ask the question.
Understand
what you're paying for.
Everybody's in business, and everybody's putting these costs in place for a reason. Just like you're putting your cost in for the cocktail or the
You're there to
flavour
make
food.
money. They're there to make money.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you know, you're not dealing with charitable organisations.
No.
So it's not like whatever you're paying is going towards a charity. Yours is going towards a business. So understand what you're paying for, and there's going to be a transaction of value there, right? And what does that value mean to you? What's your perceived value of what you're about to receive?
Yep.
And what's the perceived value what's the value that they're giving you? And I guess that's where you can compare. And I tell people, like, you know, it's not always about going and getting 10 quotes. That's not always the answer. Because if you get 10 quotes, you could be getting 10 of the same quote for the wrong thing.
Yep.
So you just confuse the shit out of yourself.
Yep.
It's if you're going down the line to engage in a product or service, like you said, Pete, understand what you need, understand what you want. And if you don't know what that is, you might be able to pay someone to scope something for you. You might be able to say, okay, this is what I think I need, but is this actually right?
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. And
You know.
because everybody wants to, you do need this.
Yeah.
You do need this. It's like my thing is on a wine glass. Do you need your branding on a wine glass? You know.
Yeah.
It's only 50 cents or it's only extra 25 cents or something like that. But then you've got to get 250 wine glasses.
Yeah.
So, you know, that price automatically of the wine
And then
glass
when
just
that
jumped
dozen
up.
breaks,
And then it doesn't break, then you've got to get another minimum run because you've got to have your branding on it. Like, it's, you know, just knowing what everything costs is...
and understanding the repercussions.
Doesn't matter.
of
Like
decisions.
we in the summer, with my kids, we do a lemonade stand out the front. Like, I've costed the fucking lemonade that we sell for $3.50, you know? And it's just to show them the value of money and what you're selling for as well. And like, you show Odin, he wants to sell the thing for $4.50. We're like,
Yeah.
I want to sell it for that too, but it's $3, man. You got to sell it for $3, but you got to know what you're doing here, you know. And it's funny, man, because even like in all our costing spreadsheets, right from even what might be perceived as the free ice that comes out of your ice machine, like we've got a cost associated to that goes into our drinks.
Your dishes.
You know?
And your
We've
drinks.
got like in our stocks and soups, the running water that comes out of our taps is costed to go into the recipe. You know, and it's all got to be accounted for somewhere. You
And
know?
that's how an institution like yours is able to keep its doors open.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I hope so.
To sum it up.
Yeah, I'd like to think so.
Well, besides the fact of having great service, great food, customers walking through the door, the fact that you can run a successful business with the right partners and having everything costed and accounted for, that's what I truly believe is allowed you to keep your doors open.
Yeah. Well, there's one thing that's really important is that what I've you know, like I think I've expressed is the importance of the hospitality, basically, at the end of the day, of what we give to the guests and how much we invest in the touch points and the experience and so forth. And the back end, we're investing in the staff and the business by making sure all our costs are in order. But you never want that to bleed over to the customer. Like they don't need to be aware of
Everything. Yeah.
like the costs associated with it. Because I mean, it can really take away from the guest experience if you start harping on about how much shit costs and you know what this is. Like there's a lot of times, like as you pointed out, people come to celebrate or get away. They don't want to know the why there's a mishap of their food being late or why we don't have this particular.
Sometimes we
bottle of
overshare.
wine. We overshare, yeah. And so that's one thing to keep in mind. Like keep your numbers in order and keep them open to the people that need
The stakeholders that need to hear it.
that need to hear it. But keep that information private.
Amazing. Pete, if there's one thing that you want to wrap this podcast up with, do you want to say anything?
Oh, just thank you for having me. It's been great to watch your journey. Like, again, even I think our relationship was pretty organic. We met out on the street. And, you know,
Seen you carrying a couple beers.
beers, yeah. But no, it's impressive to watch, and I'm glad. I'm honoured to be part of the.
Pete, you've been a instrumental figure in the hospitality scene in Australia. You really have shown that, you know, fine dining is possible in any setting, in a comfortable setting, in a setting that you perceive it as. And it's great to see that you've been able to, you know, continue your ethos through, no matter the challenging times that you've gone through personally, to keep a business afloat. And I'm sure that you're, you know, inspiring a lot of other people, and I can't wait to share this episode with everyone else out there.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, brother.
Cheers.
I appreciate it.